Here we go. So, Harold, do you see the Select logo?
Yeah, I can. I see the logo and I can hear you just fine, Bob. Over to you.
All right. Then I'm wishing everybody a warm welcome to yet another session of the Management Pack University today. Let's go. So, very happy to be back for I don't know how many times, but a few times already. My topic for today is going to be an Azure Monitor SCOM managed instance. Now, Ankur did a session earlier about SCOM MI with a focus on the vision related to a fictive case at Pineapple and what can currently be said about the release date and features and costs, etc. I will therefore be keeping the story of the why we can use SCOM MI short in the following slide and next jump to the technical bits for basic design and components and some insights into the newer features in the current preview releases. So this is a little bit about me, Bob Cornelissen from the Netherlands. I've been working with MOM and SCOM since about 2002. Many people think I only work with SCOM, but I did actually come from the Windows Server infrastructure side with domain services, networking, exchange, security, and manageability. I'm currently also involved in cloud and hybrid cloud and management strategies. So now a 12-year MVP for cloud and data center management, and I'm the technical director for Topqore and a few related companies. And yeah, I love to play carom billiards as a form of relaxation to get away from my computer screen at times. And I'm the charity ambassador for House of Tales, which is a charity taking care of around 70 dogs in Thailand with unfortunate pasts. And yeah, that's all good stuff. So let's quickly jump to the topic at hand. So I've been working with SCOM for over 20 years, and I still stand by the statement at the top there. SCOM is great for monitoring all kinds of Microsoft server-based workloads, operating systems, applications, and infrastructure. And it also has a lot of flexibility that you can make it do whatever you need to do. We just saw Mike do some nice stuff with that as well. However, many companies are in some kind of a cloud transition. And this might be anything from having a few applications hosted in web apps to running almost entire data centers and apps in a cloud platform, such as, for example, Azure. When doing a cloud transition, there are a lot of things to think about, and monitoring is one of those. And we want to retain our observability. So, what's the problem? Well, it depends on if you see things as problems or small points of attention, and every case is, of course, different. However, when looking at cloud transition and combining it with SCOM in our own data center, we land on some items of interest, such as that SCOM lives in your data center. There, it incurs both capital expenditure and operational costs. SCOM is an application that needs a relatively large footprint in processor capacity, memory, disk space, and it needs regular maintenance, such as running monthly Windows updates, quarterly for SQL, and let's say once or twice a year for SCOM update rollups. And it needs knowledge to set up the backend through designs, installation, configuration, and so forth. Something I have been asked to do for many customers in the last years and still. All right, so Anke talked about these kind of points before. Running SCOM in the cloud through SCOM MI is supposed to make running the infrastructure pieces of SCOM easier. You do not need to instantly try and recreate whatever SCOM can do into Azure Monitor itself and start from scratch. You can use this as a step in between as well, or it's an addition, right? So an important item during cloud transition and running a hybrid cloud is to get a consolidated view into your IT backend. Bringing SCOM MI as a capability of Azure Monitor to go that step further when you need to have deeper insights into your applications and solutions. So you run from the cloud and it is a managed service. So what are some of the advantages of this method of working? Let's take a few. We have the setup and management on Azure. We have no database maintenance because we use SQL managed instance for our backend. We can scale the SCOM management service quickly with a few simple clicks, and well, after the lunch, they are there for you. Patching is just clicking a button on the backend components. Keep in mind that is the backend components, not the agents. We use existing management packs for our workloads. And we can use the same SCOM console as we used to connect to it. And we have, of course, views and insights through other tooling as well, such as Power BI, Grafana, we've just seen coming, Azure Monitor, Squared Up, etc., and so on. This brings us to what is different in SCOM MI, or what is the same. Now, the most notable items here are that we moved the SQL to a SQL managed instance in Azure. We have management servers running in Azure and managed over there. And the SQL reporting services has been taken out. We will have to do our reporting insights in another way, through dashboarding, querying of data from another platform, and we can discuss those things later. Now, some things which are the same now. We still have agents as we had before, and they connect to the management servers or through gateways. The existence of gateways is still here, but the story will change slightly. That's why I have those wavy lines over there. Management packs are the same thing, and we can create overrides and so on in the same ways. We have the SCOM console as we had before to connect to it, and we can make use of other ways to view SCOM data as well. All right, so now what do we need to get this thing to work? Right, we need connectivity between our on-prem data center and Azure. The reason is that the SCOM management servers are domain joined into the domain. Thus, we need network connectivity between the locations. We need some on-prem prerequisites, as we will discuss in a minute. And we need some Azure prerequisites, also following in the coming slides. And then we can install SCOM managed instance. And of course, then we can do the important things, in my mind, such as connecting the agents up and doing the management pack work. So we kind of abstract the SCOM backend stuff and put it all here, and then we can do the rest, which we were used to doing anyway. All right. Let's start with a quick design sketch of how to set this up in, for example, in our case, a demo environment. Right, let's start with the design. First, the networking. We have on the left our on-prem data center with a subnet of 10.254/16. And on the right, we have the Azure cloud, and we have decided to use 10.250/16 over there. We need to connect these two in some way. So you can use ExpressRoute or you can use VPN in the middle. So we have made the decision to create a VPN connection to the virtual one, which we created. All right, what do we else need? We need to have a VNet here and to host our SCOM MI stuff in, and we are using a /24 network for that one. So we created a separate VNet and made sure that we can route the data back and forth over there. Next, we have to create subnets within the VNet. We create one subnet for the SQL managed instance, because SQL managed instance likes to have its subnet of its own with plenty of IP addresses. So we created the /27 here. And we create another subnet in the VNet, which is for the SCOM MI, where it will be living there with the management servers in it. Next, we apply a NAT gateway to the subnet at the top, or to the SCOM MI subnet, and assign a public IP to it. So this is used for outgoing traffic, such as, for example, getting new management packs using the SCOM console. So this is for now the networking piece of the story. In our test case, we are using the VPN just for this purpose, but let's say that you are in a hybrid or transition setup in a company anyway, you would have most of this networking stuff already done, especially the yellow parts, and you would just have to carve out just another VNet with some subnets or create just these two subnets somewhere and where you can use them. All right, so we have our networking. Now let's move to the left-hand side of the screen, the on-prem prerequisites. We need to have an Active Directory sitting there. In cases where a business is running on-prem or hybrid, this is already in place. We need to get our management servers, which live in the cloud, into our Active Directory. We create a user account for that purpose in Active Directory. That's below the green triangle. We create that user account, and this account has to be able to join a machine to the domain and add the management server computer object to a group, meaning we need to create that group as well. So what that group is used for is to give access to the group managed service account that we also create. Meaning our SCOM management servers in Azure will be using a GMSA account as a service account. And finally, we also need to create a DNS entry in our domain DNS zone, pointing towards the IP address in the SCOM MI subnet. So we reserve one IP address there for the load balancer, which we will connect to. And in this case, in the picture, I called it scommi.domain.local, and I assign it towards one of the IP addresses in the range over there. So we will just reserve it now. We will need it later. So this means that our on-prem work, most of it, is done. Let's now move to the other side, move to the cloud side. So what we need to do here is we need to create a managed identity. We can compare this a little bit to a service account. Don't know how else I would state it. It has a similar meaning. It is meant to give access to something. You will see in a minute why. We create a SQL managed instance at the bottom there through the wizard in the portal for that component. And we place it in the subnet that we created for this purpose. We assign access to the SQL instance to the managed identity, which will be used by SCOM in a minute. And we also need to have a key vault to keep the username and the password of our on-prem user account. This way, the SCOM MI creation wizard can now use the username and password stored in the key vault in order to make the connection and make the management servers work correctly. So SCOM MI, the wizard uses it for the first creation of the management server and adding it to the domain. But also when we are doing updates to SCOM MI, it will create a new VM and then add it to the domain as well using the same account. So it will be used multiple times in the future. All right, this should take care of most of our cloud prerequisites. So obviously we are missing one point now. All right, so this is the point where we run the SCOM MI installation wizard. This will create a virtual machine scale set with one management server in it to start with. Right, so that means that we have the possibility to add more management servers of the same type. So that scale set with one management server in it will be started up and added to SCOM, or actually SCOM will be created at that moment, and it will create a load balancer in front of the management servers. And it gets assigned the IP address that we reserved already and used for the DNS entry earlier. This means we can reach SCOM through that DNS entry from our agents or from the SCOM console, and it would figure out which management server it will use in the backend from the virtual machine skill set behind it. So we now have an Azure Monitor SCOM managed instance. It's a long word, but at least we have one then, right? So what does it look like? So when you start out with SCOM MI, you have this overview from where you can work on during the prerequisites work to create a new instance. So there are the prerequisites, and yes, there are all kinds of steps. They are clearly laid out in the documentation online. And there are also check scripts before. So for the on-prem prerequisites, there's a check script which you can run before the wizard. And the wizard itself actually also does another set of checks to verify that it can actually create before it does it. And of course, in the middle there, you can see create instance. So you can build up the new instance from there. And you can see that you can view instances as well that you have already deployed. So going to a specific SCOM instance, you will see an overview here with the most essential information. And this was also needed during the install wizard phase, right? So you can see GMSA account name, the group which was used, the load balancer name and IP, the SQL MI which we are connecting to, the user managed identity, the domain, the DNS server IP address, the VNet it is living in, a subnet, all kinds of stuff is there. So this is also the place where you can do things like scaling up and patching and so forth. Now that we have a base install, we have to get started with it. So let's first make a connection to it. All right, so from the second picture here, you can see a connect option with a drop-down option, and it gives you options to download the SCOM console or the web console bits, and you can install them somewhere on your machine. So usually you would do that on-prem or wherever your users are, or maybe you have a tooling server somewhere where you install that the SCOM console right now and also in the future. I would say the SCOM console would be first of this, right? So you can do all of that you could previously do in the SCOM console the same way as you do it now, except obviously the reporting pane, which is no longer there. But all of the other stuff is there, administration, authoring, monitoring, it's all there. There's currently also an option to configure and view a Power BI dashboard with a few views giving insights into some of the pieces of the SCOM deployment. Right? So it's also a matter of following the steps all the way through these wizards from left to right, if you want to use that. So today we have the set we just mentioned, which is the first two here, SCOM console, web console, and Power BI. Now, right now, also the log analytics connection is created, whereby we can send data into our workspace. So Anke, it's fixed, it works. Thank you. From there, we can use KQL queries, for example, and workbooks to talk to the data and view and analyze it. I will talk briefly about this in a little bit. So next, coming soon, as mentioned by Anke earlier, is Grafana dashboarding connected to the data in SCOM for dashboarding. It's something not currently available. It will become available at some point. I don't know how fast, and if I knew, I couldn't talk about it. And of course, we can still connect using existing third-party dashboarding tools, which are currently talking to the normal SCOM, also to this SCOM. Right? So they are all ways of connecting to it. Right, so now we need to get ready for our agents. First of all, we scale SCOM by using the scaling option. It will ask you how many agents you have or expect to have, and based on that information, it will create the required number of management servers in a skill set for you. We can use gateways to help in the communication between agents and the management server if we need that. The gateway story will be slightly adjusted from what we formerly are used to. The team is working on the gateway story in SCOM MI, and we hope to do some testing with them in the coming days and weeks in order to figure out how we can best work with that. I cannot tell you more about this right now as it would be NDA. And of course, we get agents to connect up to our SCOM MI, either directly or through a gateway. In the end, we point them at the load balancer DNS entry for the SCOM managed instance. So while we are on the picture to the right-hand side over there, you can also see the patching menu option, which leads you to the place where you can deploy an update to the SCOM backend whenever it is available. You need to click a button to start patching it there for now. So if you deploy a fresh instance, it will already be patched to the latest version. So you don't need to do it right from the start, but there can be updates coming available at a later point in time. The patching procedure is again very simple. Click a button and wait an hour while the backend does the work for you. Come on, click. So this brings us to the management packs. That's Harold's favorite story part. All right, management packs. We start loading some base management packs such as Windows Server, SQL, IIS, Active Directory, and such. You know the drill. We tune and override what we need, or we take the existing tuning from our on-prem SCOM environment and apply it here. Because if the packs are the same and we want the same from them, then you can reuse them as well. Next, we load, more management packs. And we can also look into the custom packs to load or create for our business applications and so on. That is basically the step you saw Mike doing just now. Create a new management pack, deploy it into your managed instance. It'll work the same way, connecting from Select directly into your on-prem SCOM or to the SCOM MI. You can just directly connect, deploy, and done. So one of the big questions that we get asked is whether the existing management packs still work. Well, the good news is that as far as we all can tell, they work. So the SCOM engine is still the same. I can imagine that you might run some of the Linux or network monitoring through a gateway instead of from the management servers in the new setup. One of the reasons for this, would be distance. So your Linux and network devices might be in another data center, whereby you would normally also have used a gateway before. However, if they were sitting in the same gateway as SCOM, then you could do it straight from the management service. And now maybe you have moved SCOM towards the cloud and the other resources are still sitting on-prem. So you could use them for that. But it doesn't change any of the management packs themselves. So this brings me to a few items in SCOM MI which are relatively new. So I'm talking weeks ago or days ago. Let's have a look at some of this. So I took screenshots from this because a few days ago I managed to break my SCOM MI, and but it looks like it's working again just now this morning. I fixed something. So starting with alerts in Azure Monitor. Now, if you have a running SCOM managed instance and you have a few alerts in there, or you had a few that are closed by now, you can look at Azure Monitor. So you go to Monitor, and on the left-hand side, you will find the alerts section, also in this picture. And in the middle, you will see the time range in blue, over here, the past 24 hours, it says in the picture, to adjust to, for example, a few days. And another filter is there where you can show either active alerts, or also the closed alerts by selecting the fired alerts, which is active, and resolved alerts, which are the closed alerts, as the alert condition. So if the screen was any broader, you would see it there as well, alert condition. So this will give you a list of alerts. My list of alerts is slightly shorter than Ankor's. A million alerts in there, Ankor. Wow. Was really cool to see. All right, so what if you have such an alert and you click it open, you get something like this. I just put a quick monitor in SCOM to monitor my print spooler, and I just disabled it on one of my agents, and there we go. We have an alert. It gives you the essential information from the alert as it came from the SCOM managed instance, with time, date, resolution state, whether it came from a monitor or a rule, the severity, the category, description, and a few more of those things. So near the top, you see user change response button. And if you click it, you get something like this. You can add a user response to, for example, acknowledge it right here and put in a comment. Now, at this moment, it does not yet write back to SCOM MI, but it might be on the wish list, right? So we are all aware that it would be nice that if we do something like acknowledge or close it here, then you might have wanted to do something in SCOM itself as well. However, you can, the option to do things here is also important, because if you're looking straight in this alert list, you might want to do something about it, or maybe it's used to connect up to another ITIL tool, such as the ServiceNow connection, which Ankor was talking about. Right, so you can at least do something here as well. So what we can also do, if we have this alert list now in Azure Monitor, we can create alert processing rules, action groups to react to incoming alerts. Now, in this case, I just went for simple. I just went ahead and created something to send me an email if an alert comes in with a severity 0, 1, or 2, which then results in an email in my mailbox with this information. Now, we are talking about SCOM MI a few months ago and the vision for the near future, whereby we see more and more integration between SCOM MI and Azure Monitor, aside from the name Azure Monitor SCOM Managed Instance, right? So it's not only in name only, we have to make that connection because it is actually extending the possibilities of Azure Monitor. All right, so this was actually the starting point for that story as well. Right, so what happens if I now fire that alert again? I get an email looking like this. Yes, I've set my Outlook to dark mode, but it says fired severity 0, which is critical stuff. Windows service stopped. We see all of the information. The affected resource is actually the one firing it, so that's my SCOM MI instance. And we see the print spooler on some server has stopped working. That was my agent. And we have a number of other informations right there. So we get an email. Of course, you could also set up another automation here to start an action group, to start actually different kind of actions, such as remediations, automations, other things which are not email related, let's say. You can do those as well. So next, since a few days, we have the possibility to connect to the SCOM MI instance to log analytics. The button was there for a little while, but it didn't work, and now it's fixed. And now we can actually click the log analytics workspace in this picture here. I have the opportunity to select the subscription and the log analytics workspace that I have created before for this purpose. I can select the data types. So data types, performance, state, event, and audit. Of course, the alerts are already forwarded in Azure Monitor alerts, so they are not in this list. And at the bottom, you can also say enable historic data to get at least the last 7 days worth of data quickly into your Log Analytics workspace to start playing around with. Now, once we have data in Log Analytics instead of just the SCOM data warehouse, we can actually do all kinds of nice stuff with it, right? Because Log Analytics is, the data source, let's say, for anything in Azure Monitor. We have to have data somewhere, and it's sitting really nicely over there. And that means that we can query it using KQL, and we can create workbooks with a number of much used queries and dashboards and views in there, which is something that is being worked upon by Microsoft team. So it's all coming, but first, of course, we needed to have the connection to get the data over there. Once the data is over there, you can even query it using Power BI, for example, or whatever can talk KQL. And of course, as you've seen, once you have data in Log Analytics, you can also set up alerting, for example. You can look at thresholds. You can do all kinds of other things as well, outside of SCOM even. So even if SCOM doesn't say anything about it, you can still do something with a KQL query in Log Analytics and work from there. Now, this is just to show you that I could run a query. Like I said, it was just enabled, so this was this morning. I did a quick run of a command, and you can see that SCOM was down for a while, but you could see the historic data is in there, and then fresh data is on the right hand side as well. When I fixed my SCOM MI instance. And it actually passes this information through. And of course, if you have some better queries, you can display stuff a little bit better. I just wanted to see a result. There are 4 tables in here for the different types of data you have. You can see here it's performance_CL, and the others are also custom log formatted as well. So what is coming soon in this story? So we mentioned gateways already. The product team is working on this, and I'm sure that we will be able to test this soon and play with it. As long as it is not there right now and visible, I can also not comment on NDA content in public. So I will save myself from being killed by the product team. We have seen in Ankur's presentation that there will be a migration accelerator to bring your configuration across in some way. And there is work on the way to look into creating the Grafana dashboards using an Azure hosted Grafana instance. Of course, I hope you are aware that in Azure you can actually spin up an Azure hosted Grafana instance, which of course means that, it's just another thing which is already available in the cloud. And what if we can connect one to the other? Then you can make use of more cloud stuff to do other cloud stuff. Right, looking out into the future. We are currently in public preview with adjustments made regularly to add to the pieces the product team wants, with an expected GA somewhere soon. A month has been mentioned earlier as the target. We have seen continuous updates coming out so far, and they will be coming out later on as well. Because we are running SCOM MI in the cloud, it doesn't stop us from having regular updates available, right? So the team can make regular updates available. It could be for some kind of a reason, a week, or it could be a month, or it could be a quarter of a year, whatever. As soon as they have new stuff to be rolled out, they can actually make it available either on the back end or as an update to the actual SCOM MI. It all depends on where you make things available. We see more and more integration with Azure Monitor and the Azure portal as expected. And of course, work being done on authentication and management of SCOM, and dashboarding is on the way. Yes, so I can either go for questions or I can just click around the views and show you something, because I think I still have some time left here. Harold?
Yeah, Bob, why don't you show us some of the views? You've got 10 minutes, and if you need to spill over, that's fine as well. There are a couple of questions as well. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the views you've got.
All right, so this is SCOM MI. Let's see if I can just increase the font size a little bit here. All right, so that seems to have increased the font size. So in this case, this is just a demo that I have created here. I sometimes get asked some of the questions which I could actually show you. Just don't tell the product team that I'm showing you this, because I sometimes get asked about the infrastructure side of it, right? So we have here the SQL MI. That is all fine. It's a simple SQL server in the backend, in fact, right? So it's a way of connecting. You can set up your SQL Management Studio on an on-prem machine. You can just point it towards this SQL MI and log in using the username basically that you used to create the SQL MI for, because SQL MI is not in the domain. So in this case, the SQL MI is not domain joined. It is being accessed in another way. So you will have a SQL authentication behind it, and you can use that to log in and connect to it and see whatever it is doing. Sometimes you need to do something in order to make it work, for example, for Power BI or stuff like that. All right, so what else is in here? We have the infrastructure. So like I said, the infrastructure is a set of VMs. So that is called a virtual machine skill set. Currently one management server in it. I can click on it and go to the skill set. Right. So you can actually see that I did something naughty. I adjusted the sizing of the skill set. I will show you how and where. Let me just go to that. Over on the left-hand side, there is scaling. No, there is size. Sorry. There's size. And by default, it's coming as a DS3v2, which is this one over here. So that is the default. Keep in mind that this size was chosen for a reason. It's also a production reason, right? So it is it's scaled for production. It's scaled for the 1,000 agents that it's supposed to manage and support. And also when you create new VMs in the skill set, let's say if it's done in an automated way, which is being done during updates, then it would try and generate it as this size. Obviously, this is a small demo, so I didn't want to burn through my money that quickly. So I went through from a 185 to a machine which is whatever it was. I took a B2MS, so it's a lot cheaper. However, if I need to update it, I actually need to switch it back to the original size, then update it. Otherwise, it'll give some problems there. So that is how you can resize it. If you can just click resize, you wait, I don't know, half a minute or so, and it will have resized your machine. Right, so you can see the instances sitting here. There's one server, so it uses your name of the instance, SCOM MI 05, and then it will use 00000. When you do an update of this backend, it will create a new virtual machine called 00001, and it will install SCOM on it. It will add it to the management group. It will, make sure that it works. It will transfer the RMSE role. It will transfer the agents, and then the old server will be decommissioned and removed. So that is basically the process. You add another server and it removes it. I'm telling you this because there were questions earlier regarding this, so we can just as well just do that. So that is how the skill set story works. Let's go back to SCOM MI itself. Here we are. Patching. Like we said earlier, if there's a new update, it will say that on the overview page, just in a yellow bar, and you will have here the button Update Instance, and you click it, and that starts up that additional VM creation, etc., etc. Just takes about an hour or so, and then it will be done and running. Now, something also handy which I didn't include in my my slide deck. This is also relatively new to this setup. Is resource health. So if there is a problem with SCOM itself, it will actually show you this in the resource health. So the backend. So, for example, I had some issues, as you know. So it shows actually that we had a number of health events, some unavailability, some stuff going on, and it will show you that here. And if it's available, it'll also show it here. So that is basically that story. We can download this as a PDF. There's a troubleshooting tool. There's all kinds of stuff that we can use later on. Basically, this is a check if SCOM itself is running. And over here was that log analytics workspace story, where we, well, normally just if we start out, we see just a single button and we get the question, where do we want to connect to? Well, in this case, resource group, workspace, subscription, and what data types I want. And we can actually see that the connection status is connected, so it should be working. So, well, let's look at the log analytics workspace then. So I just put in a simple query, which I actually got from one of the team members, just quickly to just draw a graph. I can just run it again and see if there's anything new. Well, there's new data in here, more data at least. I just took all of the counters which are currently delivered here, but it really is not that interesting now. We would, of course, filter it more appropriately. But at least you can see that there is data in here now. And we can see those tables. Yeah, I don't care. We can see those tables in here, which are there. So the events, custom log is here, management pack history, custom log, performance, custom log, and state custom log is here as well. So we can now start querying through log analytics, also the log analytics methods, so KQL, workbooks, etc., etc. You can even, point Power BI at this and try and query it that way, whatever you need. So obviously this opens up a whole different avenue of gathering data or connecting things together. That's basically the story here. And we have the Azure Monitor alerts. So if you go to Monitor, you arrive on this screen overview. You go to Alerts, and over here I changed the time range to something more useful for me, 3 days. And I had here the alert condition. So you will see by default it's only the fired is selected. I selected resolved and clicked apply, and clicked apply, and I now have these alerts. You can see some of them are resolved. This was when my broken SCOM finally started working again. Database connectivity, yes. So my Windows service stopped. That's basically that service that I stopped before. And I can change user response in here. So I can acknowledge, so close it from the Azure Monitor side, not from the SCOM side. It's something they know. It's something, that they would also like to investigate, maybe moving back and forth, and what would it mean? What effects would it have? Would we have to block it as well if it's coming from an unhealthy monitor, etc., etc.? You've got all kinds of stuff, considerations. So it'll take a bit to think that through and get it done. Yeah, there's also a timeline vision to this. So you can just open that up. So we can see this SCOM MI, it generated a number of alerts at this point. Then it was green for a while. Then it had another alert, which is when I fired the Windows service alert again, and etc. And then from here, we have our alert processing rules, action groups, and alert rules. So, I created something, notify, send emails on alerts. When severity is SEV 0, 1, or 2, basically that's warning and above. And the rule settings apply action group. My action group is this one, and apply the rule always. And basically that will push it towards my email address. And then I have emails for it, as we have seen in the views before. So that is basically what I have in here. I see James had a question, specific distro of Enterprise SQL or Azure SQL for SCOM MI backend. Well, it is actually the SQL managed instance. So it's not a separate Azure database, which you can also order, right? So a singular database. It's a full instance there. Any API for SCOM MI to manage configuration, monitoring, etc.? Not that I know of. Currently, we are using the SCOM console, for example, to import management packs, etc. Wow, interesting. Let's get out of there. In the meantime, let's sit over here. Yeah, so it all depends. There will be some possibilities later, as you've seen also in the Azure portal. More and more things come available in the end to manage your SCOM instance. I might expect people to think, well, maybe simple things like management pack imports, etc. we would like to do as well. And maybe assigning rights is something we would like to do this way. That's also possible. All right, let's see. Somebody is saying there's something in Q&A. Let me give a second here. If time allows.
Yeah, otherwise, we got a few questions in the Q&A section, Bob.
Yes, sir. Having SCOM MI in the same cloud as resources such as Databricks would imply easier monitoring of the same. So does anything in SCOM MI replace the Azure Management Pack in an on-prem instance? So the Azure Management Pack is basically a way of viewing data in the cloud, where we have no agent, right? So right now you can have like a full VM spinning in the cloud, and you can just put an agent on it, a SCOM agent, and it'll just send the data back as if, well, we actually don't care where it's living, right? As long as it's full VM. If it's just a PaaS SaaS kind of service, then there's a limited amount of data we can get from it because there's no agent on it. So that will be the same thing as with SCOM MI. So SCOM MI is an addition to the data you are getting from Azure Monitor. So the built-in stuff, which is in Azure Monitor already, for when in cases where you can actually dive deeper. For example, when you can put an agent on it, then you can say, hey, I want to monitor the SQL instance on that agent, or IIS on the agent, Active Directory. You know the works. If it's a SaaS instance, or like I don't know, Azure Active Directory or whatever, we do not have access to, well, they are not domain controllers, but I guess you understand what I mean, right? So you don't have access to the backend in that case, so you cannot see too much of the data, only what is provided to you. Integration between SCOM MI and Azure Alerts, is it forced or is this an option to enable? Actually, it was an option first. I think it's now automatic. I didn't click anything and it just went. Maybe this is one of those things where the product team wants to take your feedback as well and say, hey, do we want this to have this as a hey, click here to enable, or what are we going to do? So it might be a good feedback for them as well, Stephen. We had many default reports with SSRS. What about Grafana? Oh man, I've had this discussion a few times. Um, I I love reporting. So there are many people who never use reporting, or they hate reporting because they feel that it is outdated or something like that. They rather see dashboards or ways of dissecting data, such as what Power BI does, right? Slicing and dicing data on the fly. However, reporting I also see as a way of automatically creating a PDF or saving it as some kind of a thing whereby we can also process data later. And taking a screenshot of a dashboard is really not the same thing, right? So there are all kinds of interpretations there. However, getting SSRS to work on SCOM MI, I have tried it. I have been successful after a lot of cursing. I can tell you that. But it's not meant to work that way, because it also implies adding another VM to the story, a separate VM, which is then doing all of the connections and has the SSRS in it. It's a lot of mess which we are creating. So basically, we have the Power BI connectivity either to SCOM MI, but also towards Azure Monitor Log Analytics. Which I think in the end, maybe that the last option might be better as we go along. Obviously, it does mean that we have the extra data sitting somewhere else, but maybe it's in the cards later to have it in one place or the other instead of both. And dashboards as well, like Squared Up, for example, where you can then get the data and save it in some way or another. Not a full report, but screenshots or an export to Excel, for example. So yeah, I miss the default reports as well. There will be possibilities, I think, to get access to the same data and display it through Power BI or Grafana. However, somebody needs to do it. I'm not sure if the product team is fast enough to create 100 or 200 reports in a short time for all of those management packs. So this might be an opportunity for the community, as they call it. All right. So did I get them, Harold?
I think there's still like I'll tell you what, Bob. There's a few outstanding questions, I think, in the chat.
Yes, I'll take care of them over there.
Why don't you just, if you could, maybe you could hang on and maybe respond to those questions, and while we continue on with the agenda. I don't want to fall too far behind in our next sessions.
Can you take the screen over again?
Yeah, sure thing.